race fans, Ryan Aho here, and the one and only Bert Lehman. Bert, how's it going over in Wisconsin?
It's going all right. Had some rain earlier. Sounds like we're going to have some thunderstorms. Could get over an inch of rain here. So the Shawano Speedway opener has already been postponed a week. Hopefully that's all it's postponed.
Yeah, I know that the people in North Dakota watching the show, they're like, Bert, seriously, we're talking about an inch of rain. We're going to come over there and curb stomp you, because they're supposed to get, like, I've seen reports that they're supposed to get like as much as 2 feet of snow. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But I talked to the folks up at the Devil's Lake Speedway, and they said, we're basically ready to go. We're going to have practice. We just needed the frost to come out. And that's not happening this week. Well, probably not next week either.
That was us 3 years ago. We got like 30 inches of snow 3 years ago, almost to the date this week.
That's perfect. That's perfect. We got a little bit of snow here in Minnesota, not a ton. A little bit of freezing rain going on right now, but in our neck of the woods, right up in northern Minnesota, racing doesn't start till mid-May anyway. So not a big deal. We'll touch on that a little bit more in a second here. But of course, episode 124 brought to you by our friends over in Watertown, South Dakota, Dirt Track Supply. Of course, Ron Anderson and Trevor has been servicing race cars. They've been in the racing industry for decades now. Both accomplished racers, and they service a lot of tracks. And I know Trevor's been having some posts up online about the tire situation. So follow Trevor Anderson on Facebook, and you'll be able to kind of see what a lot of these vendors are dealing with. It's kind of a tough one, but it's that time of the year where you should be having your car pretty close to ready. If you need any final last parts or anything like that, get a hold of Dirt Track Supply, and they'll be sure to help you out. So, Bert, speaking of that, the Hoosier tire situation. Wow. Everybody I talked to says it's looking to be worse than last year. And I put down some notes here. And I really want to talk about, this is the biggest story in dirt racing right now. By all means, in our area for sure, probably in your area as well. I know USRA is dealing with it. Lucas Oil's dealing with it. Tires is a nightmare. And really what we got to be doing as a racing industry is looking for some viable solutions to help with this. Because quite honestly, Bert, it ain't going to change. And everybody I'm talking to says, probably going to be worse. I talked to Blake at Hoosier Tire North, and he says, this sucks. He goes, I'll be honest with you, I did not expect to have to deal with this kind of drama when him and Scott Willis took over Hoosier Tire North. He never anticipated this, right? He didn't anticipate people calling and like literally screaming at them about tires. So racers understand Hoosier Tire North, for example, and all the distributors, they're nothing more than a distributor. They don't manufacture the tires, right? They get what they get from Hoosier. They have a certain amount that they can spread out to all the racers. That's what they got, right? That's what they got. So they're doing the best they can. Everybody's going to have to work together. So really, we have to explore all options. And I talked to Bob Kaufman over at Cedar Lake, and I said, because they haven't been with soda, right, for 20 years, Bert? It's been something like that. I think it was 2000 and I want to say 5 was the last year that they were with soda. So that's 17.
That's hard. It's hard to believe that it's been that long.
It has, because 2006 and 7 was DTRA, and so it's been 2005. So it's been a long time. And you think with soda 100s and all the history of Wissota at the Cedar Lake Speedway. And I'm like, has there been any thoughts of Cedar Lake maybe going back to Wissota sanction? I mean, maybe not in all the classes, right? I can understand modifieds because they have USRA cars come, they have Wissota cars come. It works for them. I get it. Super stocks, for example, there is no other sanctioning body that's super stocks. So, I mean, why not go with soda? And he says the biggest benefit to them to being non-sanctioned is when stuff happens, they can make adjustments, not have to worry about being set into a set of rules. And an adjustment might be tires, right? For example, it'd be very easy for them to say, look, we're having a shortage of tires. If you can get USRA tires, if you can get G60s, if you can get UMP tires, let's just make it work. We're at the point right now, if it's round and black and holds air, and maybe, I mean, we might get to that point, right? I saw Trevor, talking about it online. He says, look, we're only allotted so many tires, and we want people to have tires for the big races at the end of the year, the invitationals. And if we use up our whole allotment in the first few months, well, then what's going to happen, right? So we got to work together. We got to come to some solutions. So that's nothing against WISSOTA, but that's one of the benefits. And with that said, WISSOTA could maybe play around with that a little bit too. I get it. They have a contract with Hoosier, but let's face it, if Hoosier is not fulfilling their end, and I'm talking Hoosier corporate, not Hoosier Tire North, but if they're not fulfilling their obligation and getting the amount of tires needed to actually have a good racing season, is that a breach of contract? I mean, does that give them some flexibility and saying, hey, maybe we can explore some other options? I don't know. Maybe it's something to take a look at. Let's look at another thing. It wasn't so long ago, Bert, that street stocks, pure stocks, for sure pure stocks, right? They were on street tires. And let's be honest, I know street stock guys, I love you. I love you. I love that class. I've been breaking you guys up for a while, but a street stock's a glorified pure stock. It's what it is, right? It's a stock car, right? Mostly, especially WISSOTA. Why not look at the opportunity of maybe going back and say, let's just put these two classes back on street tires? It's a lot easier to get street tires, right? Than it is to get WISSOTA Hoosiers. And I have a pretty good feeling, and I'd love to see somebody test this. Just a hunch. I'm thinking street tires probably refire more than once or twice, all right? They don't wear out as much. You can run them longer. So maybe it's not a bad alternative to look at, for sure, pure stocks, maybe street stocks, and saying, look, we're going to go back to street tires, and maybe that's the best option. Let's see, Bert's over there distracted. What are you looking at? I can't see what you're looking at over there.
Well, no, actually, I have the Brewer game on in the background, and they have the Tavern of the Game, and it's actually a bar that's within 15 minutes of where I live.
The Brewers suck. Okay,
they do so far.
They do. So, seriously, yeah. Okay, so you're chasing squirrels. We're trying to do a show. You're watching the lonely Brewers. I'm a Minnesota Twins fan, but Illinois, and I know the Cubs just kicked the shit out of your Brewers here a couple days ago.
They did.
I'm just saying, that's about as bad as watching basketball. I don't know what to think, right? So, pure stock, street stocks, fans, drivers, if you're in that class, what do you think, right? What do you think? Is that a viable option? If we can't get tires, if there's a shortage, and you look at UMP mod tires, Bert, I've heard they're going as high as 165 out the door. Well,
I believe that.
So with that said, swallow your pride. I get it. Everybody's like, oh, I want to be on a racing Hoosier too. Why? There's no benefit, right? So if everybody can be on a street tire, and if you can get that tire cheaper and it can last longer, that might be better for racing, and that might allow more tires to be available to super stocks, Midwest mods, and modifieds. Just a thought. Another thing here. Speaking of the prices, right? So I was online here end of last week, and one of the vendors up in northern Minnesota, somebody put on there, they're like, why did the tires go up in price? And I started arguing with the guy. I'm like, they didn't go up in price. He's like, bull crap, they went up in price $17. I'm like, no way. I'm like, they aren't supposed to. They're locked into a contract. Well, I did some digging at that particular vendor, Bert. They went up $17 from last year. And I'm like, well, how the hell can they do that, right? Well, I found out. So Hoosier Tire North, again, they got the duty of distributing tires to all the vendors, right? So you take Dirt Track Supply, who they supply tires to multiple racetracks, service a lot of people. They sell a lot more tires. So percentages wise, they get more tires available to them than a vendor that sells very few. That's just kind of the formula that they have, probably the best way they can do it right now. Well, they limited this particular vendor to 8 tires. 8. And they literally said, well, hey, here's the deal. That's 1 tire for 8 people. No, that's 4 tires for 2 people, right? Let's just be honest. Or 2 tires for 4 if you're doing the 2 tires thing. Last I checked, most race cars have 4 tires. Maybe this is a whole new meaning, but maybe we're going to go back to the leave the left front at home, right? Maybe just completely eliminate that. We go back a little bit, get the cars hiked up, left front, just completely take the left front off. You only need 3 tires then. Maybe that's an option. I don't know. But he actually, I talked to him. He sent me a picture of his invoice. His invoice with the increase in shipping, because the price break is at 20, okay? And this is CarQuest up in Hibbing, Minnesota. They've done a lot for the sport. And he felt bad. He did. You don't want to charge people more. But the fact is, his cost with shipping was more than what other vendors are selling the tires with tax included out the door. He's like, I had to. He goes, I mean, you don't make no money on tires anyway, and if I can't, make a couple bucks for my time doing it, why even doing it? I mean, so it's kind of a bad deal.
You can't do it where you're going to lose money. I mean, you have to at least, at the very, very least, break even. Right. And at that point, what's the point of even doing it if you're not going to make any money? But that's where, when there are people out there that say, well, the cost of this shouldn't be put onto the consumer. Well, it has to be put onto the consumer because the businesses, like I said, they can't lose money. So if shipping goes up, that means the cost of the final product is going to go up. I mean, that's just simple economics.
Right. And the fact of the matter is, and maybe Blake, if you're listening down at Hoosier Tire North, maybe an alternative in this situation is, look, if the price breaks at 20, let's make sure that vendors get at least 20, right? I mean, get them to the price break on shipping so they don't have to pay that inflated shipping price at least, not a huge deal. I mean, I get it. They don't want to take away from other places and sell more tires, but maybe hold them tires and say, hey, we'll send you 20 next week. Or you can figure out a way to not make that happen. Hopefully they got that resolved, because I know he wasn't really happy about it. And he's got a lot of pride and he's helped a lot of racers, and that's something he doesn't want to do. So another thing, drivers, right? I mean, I've heard drivers, Bert, I've already heard this already. It's already happened. I'm going to give a tip of the cap right here to Trevor at Dirt Track Supply, because he made it very clear. And again, he does not want to do this, right? But he made it very clear that they're going to do everything they can to eliminate drivers from hoarding tires. Okay. He did a couple of Facebook Lives on this. He goes, if you're one of our customers, if you race at our tracks, if you're one of our drivers, you know who you are. We'll sell you tires. They're keeping a database on it, so you can only get a couple tires a week, or they got it all figured out. You'll have to listen to the lives. There's already drivers, Bert, that are doing the game, right? They're calling this vendor and that vendor and this vendor and that vendor, and they're like, hey, I got 10 tires already. And it's like, that ain't good for anybody. I mean, I get it. If I was racing, I would do the same thing. I would. I guarantee I would. I'd want to be at an advantage. I would definitely want to do that. But let's be honest, it's not fun racing against 2 cars, right? If only 3 of you have tires and everybody else stays home, I'm sorry, but that's just not entertaining for anybody. So we're in a situation where everybody's got to work together a little bit. And that leads me to something on drivers. Bert, let me ask you this as a fan, as a race fan. Do you remember back in the day, and maybe it still happens at your tracks, I know it doesn't really happen often at ours, but you remember when somebody got a flat early in the race and they'd go in the pits and they'd change that tire and they'd come back out and the crowd would be captivated going, I wonder how far back up to the front that driver can get. Does that still happen, or when somebody gets a flat, are they pretty much done for the night over there?
No, it still happens, is that they change the tires. I mean, I guess it depends on the situation, but there's a lot of drivers that still change the tires.
Yeah, see, in our area, depending on the class, especially late, somebody in a late model dings something up, they're done for the night, they pull off. And we see it, especially with the point average lineup. And again, I hate the rule. I think the rule's stupid. I'll talk more about that in a second. But, if you're in a, which it doesn't happen very often, unfortunately, but let's say you have a 20-car feature, 22-car, 24-car feature, and you get a flat right away. If you're not racing for track points, whatever, just pull off. We'll start in the front next week. Not a big deal. If you're racing for track points, they're going to be like, hey, every point matters, okay? Well, with the tire shortage and the tire situation, are we going to see more of when drivers are not having a real good night, just pull off. Just save their tires. Hey, we're halfway through the race. We're back here in 12th, 14th. We ain't going nowhere. We're just going to live to play another day, maybe get another night out of these tires. Do you think that's going to happen a little bit more often?
Oh, it's very possible depending on how many tires they do have. And I mean, they may also be depending on who the driver is and what their upcoming schedule is. If they got some big specials coming up where they want to, make sure that they have enough tires to choose from, that may happen. Or maybe they just skip a week, skip a regular weekly race if there's a whole slew of. I mean, doesn't XR have like the week of WISSOTA late model racing or something? I mean, are some late model drivers going to skip some regular shows prior to that to make sure that they have tires for that week of racing?
I know what happened at the end of the year last year, right? Because I know that there was Hibbing and Grand Rapids drivers that were saying, for the last couple of weeks, we're just going to race Hibbing or just going to race Rapids because we want to save our tires so we have more tires available for Labor Day weekend. I know that Jeff Tardy, for example, he says, you know what? I'm not going to race the last couple of weeks of August. I just don't have tires. It's important to me to be out there for Labor Day, so I'm going to make sure I have tires for that. That will happen. So I don't want to see people taking nights off. That sucks. That ain't good for anybody. But
no, I know. I agree.
It's going to happen. But late models, more than anybody, I remember for years and years, late models, somebody would be having a bad night, boom, pull off, bad night, pull off, bad night, pull off. And with the point average, it annoyed me, but I think that's going to be more common now simply because economics, you almost have to. Now, a solution for WISSOTA here. So if you're a promoter, okay, and you agree with what I'm saying, this is just a thought and idea. I think we have to cut laps. Like literally, we have to cut laps. With the tire shortage we have, there's no need for 10 lap heats. Just don't need it. Just don't need it. You can cut the laps by 2 in the heat. Let's be honest. Most of the nights, there's enough cars. There's nobody going to a B main anyway, so it don't matter. Okay. So I think they need to cut laps in the heats. And again, as a racer, I hate the idea of shorter races. I do, especially 15 laps. But for regular night racing right now, I think that there's no reason to have more than a 15-lap feature. It just is what it is. Is it a little bit less entertainment value for the fans? Maybe, maybe not, because a lot of times most of the passing is done early in the race, and maybe people are going to have to be a little bit more aggressive. Now, a solution to this, so racers, before you have a complete heart attack with what I said, okay, they're all thinking, the top guys that are watching this going, the freaking point average lineup system, we already got to start freaking 8th, and now you want to cut laps? Well, fix that, okay? So right now in WISSOTA, if there's 2 heats, 8 cars make the invert. If there's 3 heats, 3 cars in each heat, so 9 cars make the invert. 4 heats, top 2, right? Or 4 heats, top 2, which we don't see 4 heats. Just bring that down a little bit. If there's 2 heats, make it the top 3 make the invert. You know what that would do? That would make heat races more meaningful, right? Because now you got to get into the top 3 to make the invert instead of getting 4th or getting 5th and being able to start in the same spot. So I think they need to take the invert system they have with WISSOTA, Bert, and they need to have less cars making those invert spots, allowing that you can run less laps in the feature and you're not penalizing the drivers as much. I think it's better for racing all around. And long term, no, we don't need to do that long term. Go back to more laps later. But right now, regular nights, you don't need to have 20, 25, 30 lap features for regular pay. Hibbing Raceway, Bert, 30 lap feature for $800 to win for a late model. Ridiculous. You don't need it. Don't need it. Challenge Series shows, $200 to start, 40 lap feature, and I bet 50% of them rubbered up halfway through last year. Okay. Challenge Series shows, go to 30 laps. Tracks, you got to work with everybody here. Fix the point average deal so you can do this. But I think you got to run less laps. Drivers, fans, whoever, put your comments on that. I'd like to hear your thoughts. We got to be looking for solutions, because one thing we know right now is no matter what we do, we're going to be limited on how much tires we can get. You know who's working with everybody more than anybody right now, Bert? Mother Nature. Mother Nature. Everybody's mad, right? Everybody's mad. Oh man, we're canceling. We got races. We got rained out, snowed out. This sucks. Probably for the best, to be completely honest. It just is what it is in the tire situation. So with that said, Bert, let's go back to a blast to the past, brought to you by Impact Health Sharing. So Impact Health Sharing, it's a great alternative to overpriced healthcare. Fans out there, people watching the show, if you know anybody or yourself, if you're paying for your own healthcare, shoot me a message, shoot me a text. I'll get you a quote. Takes just a couple minutes. Maybe I can help you out. And I've been able to help a lot of people save a lot of money, keep thousands in their pocket annually. And you can go to any doctor anywhere in the United States. There's no in-network. So Impact Health Sharing, get a hold of me, Ryan Aho, see if I can help you out. But Bert, episode number 124, neither one of us had a 124, but I know you have some 24s.
Yes, I have a few from eastern Wisconsin. The first I'll start with, remember 2 shows ago, Joe Haffercorn, who won the first ever IMCA modified feature at Channel Speedway. Well, his son also raced, Tom Haffercorn, and his number was number 24. So
Okay.
So it was 22 and 24 between the father and the son. And also I have Gary Nelson, who used to race in the Sportsman Limited Late Model division. He did race late models also towards the end of his career. And then Tim Bueller, who's from down by Sheboygan area. He used to race at Channel Speed. Well, he'd drive up to Antigo every Friday, race, camp out, and then he'd go to Shawano, race at Shawano, camp out, and then he'd go to Seymour on Sunday night and race. So for years and years he did that. I mean, his weekend was racing 3 nights a week, and I mean, he lived like 2 hours away from Shawano. But anyway, I believe, I mean, he raced last year, but I believe he has retired and he won't be racing this year. But he started as number 24. Most recently, he was number 7, but he started as number 24.
Did he win one this past year or the year before? Because we talked about it on the show, didn't we? That he won one over there?
He may have. I mean, to bring this into WISSOTA perspective, when Eastern Wisconsin late models were still WISSOTA, he actually traveled and raced in some of the Challenge Series races, and I believe it was a Challenge Series race. I believe it was in the Dakotas. He won a feature.
Okay.
That would have been back in the late 90s probably when he did that. So those are the 3 that I have from Eastern Wisconsin.
Oh, you said you have one more, maybe from possibly Minnesota. What do you got there?
I believe it's from Bear, Minnesota, or Bear Lake, Minnesota, or Bear, Minnesota. No, I don't know. Mike King, didn't he race? Or no, Mike Bear.
It was Mike Bear. I don't remember if he's from Minnesota or he might be. I think he might be from Minnesota.
Yeah.
And it said King on the side of one of his cars.
Yeah, he had a smaller number on the side of his car, and then it said King on it.
Yep. Yeah, so Mike Bear. Now, I got an interesting... my memory's escaping me in my old age, Bert, I'll be honest. But Mike Bear, he's been around for a long time, right? He still makes it over. I think he still goes to the Cedar Lake Speedway once in a while. But I remember him back in the... I think the class would have been called CLS late models, which was kind of like a super stock, kind of a limited late model deal. I don't think it was a street stocks, but he had a 57 Chevy, right? And it was kind of a sweet looking car. He was pretty quick. And I remember him side by side. I was a little kid, so bear with me. I couldn't have been maybe 10, 12 years old, somewhere in that neighborhood. And we were sitting over in the front straightaway. I think we were sitting off of turn 4 is where we were sitting. And Bert, this was before they had all the grandstands and all that down the back straightaway. And they actually had motorhomes and all that parking down the back straightaway. And I remember him and the 4 car got together, and I believe that was Jerry Kattinger. and he went up over the wall in between two vehicles full of people and hit a motorhome. I don't think anybody got hurt. I really don't, but I was too young to remember. But it was like a wow moment that car cleared the fence and hit that vehicle with all them people around. It was absolutely insane. So if somebody knows more about that, hopefully nobody got hurt, because I don't want to bring up bad memories, but I remember that happening. But he had a really cool looking car, and I'll post that on here. Another one I have, and this one here is somebody that I was a friend with, for many years. He's been around racing for a long time. You hear the Kittner name all the time, right? We talk about Kittner up in Minnesota. Bobo Kittner. He ran the 24. One of the nicest guys in racing. He ran 6 cylinders against my dad, them old 81 Camaro bodies, right? And he ran against my dad for many years. And they had a big following over there. They had the Brad Hansen, Bobo Kittner, kind of the Parkville gang, Jeff Forcine, kind of Parkville Mountain Iron. And for years and years, he raced in the 6-cylinder class, transitioned over into the Superstock class. I raced against him for many years in the Superstock class. I remember he had an old Cobra car, super sweet looking, and then he got into the turbine chassis, which that was family to him, Mark Tremberth, and literally there was a ton of turbines up there, and Bobo Kittner won some races in that turbine, lost his life. He's a Hall of Fame member over at the Hibbing Raceway, lost his life at a young age. It was really sad for a lot of people that were really involved. But he was a guy, Bert, that he loved to have fun. I remember him and Brad Hansen, and they'd party. We'd go to the Red Clay, and hopefully we ain't going to get in trouble. There's got to be a statute of limitations on this, right? But I remember 2 things, right? One night I was a kid. I was still young. I was still too young to be racing. And I was walking through the pits and taking pictures and all that before the features at the Red Clay Classic. And Bob was like, Ryan, come over here, grab a Polish, grab a hot dog. They had the grill going, right? And I look over there, and here's Brad Hansen, just literally passed out. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon on feature day at the Red Clay Classic. I'm like, is he alive? He goes, well, he's in the feature. He should be good by feature time, but he's not in really good shape right now, he said. And I think they were playing football, and I think he tackled Brad one year, broke his leg. He was a kind of a bigger guy. And then, another deal over at the Red Clay Classic is, I remember we used to have bonfires all the time, and we'd do it at the hotel. We stayed right on Lake Superior, and it was Bobo and Brad, and I think Harry Hansen was there, that whole group, right? And literally, they kept finding wood for the bonfire. You know what the wood was? It was picnic tables, lawn furniture, all that stuff from the hotel. They burnt all of it, and they had a bonfire all night long. And that was common stuff back in the day. But Bobo Kittner was a fixture at the Hibbing Raceway for a long time, and a guy that we certainly miss up there. Sticking with the Kittner name, Jay Kittner. And this guy here, 24J, he's been racing for a long time. He's ran hobby stocks and super stocks and modifieds and late models, and he has multiple Labor Day Shootout wins, both in the super and in the late model. In fact, he just recently won the Labor Day Shootout in the late model. But that Kittner name has been a staple at the Hibbing Raceway for many years, and Jay's got a different look to his car this year. Just take a peek at it online. Pretty cool looking. Another guy, do you remember this name? Jeff Leon?
No.
He ran late model, super stocks, street stocks, you name it. But Jeff Leon was a number 24, and I remember him back in the street stock days jumping up to supers. I actually drove his late model one night over at the Eagle Valley Speedway. Honestly, I have no clue how I did. I was in, I think I was in a super stock at the time. I think I ran mid-pack, did okay with it. But Jeff Leon in the 24, and little Jeff Leon story. So it was kids racing. Jeffrey Leon Jr., he's racing now. And I remember over in Ashland, Jeff Leon got disqualified, right, in the after the heat race for having a B mod motor in an A mod. Unbelievable. But he's back at it. He's been around racing for a long time. Another super stock guy that I remember doesn't race anymore, Dan Carlson, the 24C. I remember going to the Cedar Lake Speedway, and several times we parked either right next to him or a couple spots down. Formidable opponent. Really, really fast car. Mostly just raced at Cedar Lake. He did come to a couple nights up at Superior, but doesn't get around the track anymore. But Dan Carlson was really quick for a guy that raced one night a week. Another guy here that I have, super stock guy, Jeff would know this guy. Our late model expert, Jeff, who happened to be the tech guy down at the Grove Creek Speedway, Scott Thompson. He ran really well for several years at Grove Creek, over at Wilmer, won several races, was a guy that was really tough to beat, even when I was racing for championships. But sounds like he had some health issues that got him out of the car, and I don't think he's been back in a car since. And then another guy that I have, and I have a picture. I don't know the whole story, but JP Ozzie, Terry Little, they kind of raced together. I know Aaron Little ran a pure stock number 24, but I have a picture of a modified here with JP Ozzie standing next to it. But Ozzie and Little, they ran in the super stock together. They ran in the modified together in a 24. They were also number 0. Of course, Terry Little still getting after it. And there's this car, you might recognize it, orange car. Like here, this guy.
Oh, the national guy?
Yeah, the national. Yeah. I don't remember his name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rick Eckert.
Rob, yeah.
I mean, if you think national late model scene, it's Rick Eckert, right? I mean, that's who. I mean, even though now he's 0, right? But he didn't he win? Was that car up there? Was that half a Tampa? Is that what that was?
Yeah, he raced half a Tampa back.
Because he won a couple championships in that, didn't he?
I don't know if he won any championships. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like he's got at least, he has a World of Outlaw championship, doesn't he?
I'm not sure on that.
I'm not sure. We're going to have to check those. So fans, check that out by Rick Eckert. So that's it for our Blast of the Past. And, what do we say we get into the national recap? Not a lot of racing this past weekend. We'll keep it short here. Got a couple tidbits here, but national recap brought to you by our friend Brad Parson. And I know it's snowing right now in North Dakota, but you're still going to be able to plant stuff really, really soon. And if you don't have everything you need, he's got some solutions for you that can help you increase your yields. He can help you be more profitable, both things that you're looking for if you're in farming, especially when the weather's not cooperative. But they've done extensive testing and they've had some great numbers. So get a hold of Brad and he can certainly help you out. Got 15-year track record, mostly in the Dakotas and Western Minnesota. But a racer, he's been around racing for a very long time. So we want to stick with those that are part of our group, and that's Brad Parson. He can definitely help you out. So this past weekend here, a little bit of late model action, Bert. Lucas Oil Dirt Late Model Series in action. Supposed to be 3 shows. Mother Nature won night number 1. And then they went to Hagerstown and Port Royal. Hagerstown the first night, I'll be honest, fairly uneventful. Just not real eventful. They just kind of farmed the bottom, kind of one lane. Turbo absolutely curb stomped him. I mean, he drove away. T-Mac was second, but he just never really had anything for Turbo. So he kind of drove away with that. Pretty impressed by him. Bishop put on the backup beeper. He was up battling for the lead, and I think he passed himself all the way from in the top 5 to like 11th. Really good run for him. I don't know what the hell he was doing, right? But Port Royal was actually a little bit more exciting. It was not too bad. What stuck out to you over at Port Royal?
Well, I mean, obviously, the heat races weren't too eventful, except for the one where the one that Greg Satterley was in, because he was on the outside front row, I believe.
He was.
And going into 1 and 2, he got up in the marbles and actually got into the wall. And then he got together with Clanton too after he came off the wall, didn't he?
Yeah, a little bit.
He got together with somebody.
Bad. Yeah, it wasn't horrible.
Yeah. And then, the yellow came out. Now, they did say that there was another car. I mean, because Satterley never stopped. So, I mean.
Nobody stopped.
Okay, well, when I was watching, I thought the audio said that so-and-so stopped. And,
no, there was contact with another car, right, that messed them up. In my opinion, there shouldn't have been a yellow, right? So we're talking about national late model scene, Bert. So I've already been very critical of this no-fault caution rule, right? To where, like, I can yard sale somebody, I keep going to get my spot back. if they're going to do that, how can they possibly have original restart? How's that even a thing? I mean, it looked like the air came off his nose. He got up, he got loose, he got in the fence, got together with another car. Whether they throw the yellow or not, immaterial. But then they give him a spot back, and they put him back on the front row like a do-over. Man, I mean that's kind of cool. I mean, if I was in a late model, right, you just yard sale it into turn one and hope it sticks. If it doesn't, get your spot back, go again, right? I don't know. What's your thought on this whole, original restart where you don't even penalize the guy for bringing out the caution?
I mean, I think it should be original restart, but the guy who caused the caution should, go to the back of the pack. I mean, at this is a weekly show, but at Shawano, they have a 1 spin rule in the heat races. So if you spin, you're done for the heat race, unless it happens on the first lap. You can spin on the first lap, but if you're the cause of the caution, then you go to the back and then they restart the race. You don't actually get your spot back.
Hey, that'd be a good way for lower budget guys, right, to save money on tires, because a lot of them guys spin out in the first 2-3 laps of the heat race. Save tires right there. Probably not such a bad deal. No, I agree with you, Bert. I mean, if whoever causes a caution should go to the back. Now, I will say this. He had the best car in the feature. We'll talk about what happened there. He did have the best car, but Christmas came early twice. So he got a gift in the heat. It is what it is. He took advantage, right? But what happened in the feature?
Well, Kyle Larson and Hurricane.
EPJ.
Yeah. They were battling. I mean, Larson had the lead, and he was running to middle to the high side the whole time. And then Pearson got on the inside of him going down the backstretch. He actually got in front of him at one point, and then going into 3, I mean, Larson, he crowded him down. He crowded him.
Traffic though. They were in lap traffic.
Were they? I mean, it looked like Larson. Well, Larson was definitely in a lower groove than what he was racing the previous laps.
Yeah,
and I think Pearson did go up a little bit, even though Larson was there. And at that track, they have a fence on the infield, so I mean, it's not like you can maneuver. I mean, if you get crowded, there's nowhere else for you to go to the inside, and they made contact, and then Larson spun out coming out of 4, and
both were done. Both were
both of them. Well, they went back out, but I mean, they were done as far as being.
Pearson did, but then he pulled off. He exited right off the top. He was done.
Okay. Well, Larson went out for a little while. I don't know if he actually finished the race. But yeah, and that gave the lead to Satterley then. But like you said, I mean, he had the best car. I mean, he started, I don't know, row 3 or row 4.
I think
I mean, he was passing cars. He definitely had the best car.
Yeah, and it's interesting what he said, right? Because he was coming. He chased them down in lap traffic, and it looked like he was ready to pounce anyway. I think without that ordeal, Saturday wins that race. I think he was going by both of them. But it was interesting what he said. He goes, you get into turn 3, and you couldn't see anything until you were coming out of turn 4 because of the way the sun was coming down. So I found that interesting because it wasn't one of the drivers involved with the incident that said that. He said that in Victory Lane. And I'm like, man, I have been in that situation, several tracks. I remember going to Jim Falls in the heat races. You'd be driving down the back straightaway, and you could not see a thing getting into turn 3 until you apex the corner, and then all of a sudden it'd be like, oh, wow, like that's crazy. So I wonder how big, I'm guessing that must have played a huge role in that incident because, yeah, he moved down and stuff was happening with lappers, but how much of a factor was not being able to see in that whole ordeal, right? So with that said, did you see what happened with RTJ?
He got up into the wall once himself. And yeah, he's not having a very good season so far.
Yeah, well, he brought out a backup car, and he got the hard charger, right? He started last, got up to like 11th, but he got disqualified.
Because
Yeah,
I
he got
didn't see that.
disqualified.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's when he got into the fence or what happened, but the left rear chain eliminator, something in the chain eliminator broke. So that way, and that's what limits the car on hike up for the droop rule, right? So when they went to check his droop rule, the car just kept going up and up and up. They're like, yeah, what's going on here? The whole system broke. So there was no limit on how far the car could hike up, automatic disqualification. So he got last in the feature. So a rough night times 10, because yeah, that last place was a whole lot different in points than finishing. I think he would have got 11th. Brandon Shepard, point lead. We'll talk about that in a minute. Devin Moran struggled again. He just did not look real good all weekend. He was terrible, in my opinion, over at Bristol. He did not look all that good. You know, I had really high hopes for him. He was so unbelievably good at Speed Weeks, and it's like he just cooled right off. So can Devin Moran turn it around and get back to the form that he was in to start the season? Bert, what do you think?
I mean, it's always possible to turn it around. You know, the way he's been performing, it makes you wonder what impact that his brother not traveling with him is having on the performance of that team. So that's something we'll have to watch as the season progresses. I was going to touch on this a little later in who's not hot, but another guy really struggling is Hudson O'Neal. I mean, he got lapped halfway through the race. It was only lap 15 and he was getting lapped.
Not good. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit here as well. And the last thing on the Lucas side is a tire deal, right? Because, forever and ever, open racing, Lucas, World of Outlaw, it's been a free-for-all. I mean, it was nothing for people to have qualifying tires, heat tires, feature tires, right? Change tires in the middle of a race and a long race, all that. Well, they had it down to 6 tires, and now at this last swing they were on, it was a 5-tire rule. So you had to run the same fronts and left rear, and then you were allowed to change the right rear for the feature. That's it. And now the next swing, which is going to be Macon, one more track over there, Macon's one of them, 4 tires. The tires you start the night with, that's what you run the rest of the night. That's it. So that's another thing that WISSOTA needs to be looking at it. I get it. It's more work for a tech guy because you got to take pictures of the serial number. You got to document what tires are running. You can't just mark them because racers are too smart for that. They'll remark a different tire. But you got to there's different things that you got to do, and you really got to be on top of it because we can't be having people running, heat race tires and feature tires, and we just can't do that. We're not in a position with tires to do that. So it's interesting. It's not just locally. Lucas Oil, they recognize the problem. They're hoping that they don't have to cancel races, but that's the world we live in today. So let's jump on to some World of Outlaw sprint car action. One of the two, won by Mother Nature. They went to, I don't remember what track was it at. They had the Jason Johnson Classic. I don't even have the track written down, which is probably good, right? Because I don't want to, nobody needs to know the track. I mean, it was horrible. I was watching this with my buddy Jeff Krause, and he's like, what are they doing? They went out and they farmed the track before the feature, and they farmed just the bottom. That's all they did.
Really?
That's it, right? So what do you suppose the track did? It one lane on the bottom, it completely locked down, and people were shredding tires. They showed one tire just got destroyed in, I think, either the dash or I think it was a dash. Maybe it was a last chance qualifier, one of the two. And it's like, unbelievable. I mean, just terrible racing. Now, it was kind of cool, right? Jacob Allen, Bobby Allen's kid, parking in Victory Lane. That's somebody that doesn't normally win. That's one of Puka's flat bill hat, Pretty sure he might be a tweaker. I'm not really sure. I don't want to start any rumors here, but he's like your skateboarder race car driver is kind of what he is, skate or die. But parking in Victory Lane, ran a good race, kind of uncontested the whole way. Another Hoosier story. Remember we talked about Brent Marks in Victory Lane? He kind of had it blacked out over the Hoosier a couple weeks back. David Gravel, a friend of the show, sent me a picture, said, hey, David Gravel joined the party. He had a white Hoosier sticker with white, it was either white paint or white tape right over the top of the Hoosier. Kind of everybody's a little unhappy with the situation that Hoosier Corporate's in. And remember, it's foreign-owned company right now, and maybe that's part of the problem, right? Maybe the Hoosier Racing division just isn't a priority to this company. I don't know that, but I know that racers are getting upset. Some of these series, remember, Bert, they don't have a price lock on, so they're paying big money for tires, big money. WISSOTA has a price lock on, but with that price lock, guess who's going to get their tires last, right? That's just the way it is. That's just simple economics. So that's the world we live in. But we talked about at the end of the show last week, and I thought this was kind of fun, right? We talked about at the end of the show that we're going to take and we're going to rank our top 10 racing movies, okay? Our top 10 racing movies. Now, Bert, go ahead with yours, and you can go in any order. You can go 1st to 10th, 10th to 1st. I have my list. You have your list. I watched a few of these over the last week.
So did I.
Pretty good. A couple of them. I can't get that time back. They flat out suck. We'll talk about that.
That's why I didn't watch as much racing this last week, because I was watching racing movies.
Well, I told you which one you needed to watch. The rest of them you didn't. So, go ahead, Bert.
All right. Well, number 1, I have Days of Thunder. I don't know if you want me to talk about them or we're going to talk about them after.
Yeah, we can talk about them after. Yeah.
Okay. I have Days of Thunder number 1, Six Pack number 2, Senna number 3, Ford versus Ferrari number 4, Blink of an Eye number 5, Rush number 6, The Last American Hero number 7, Dale number 8, Greased Lightning number 9, and Cars number 10.
All right. So I'm going to go, I'll go in the same order that you did here. I got Days of Thunder. I have that number 1. I have Six Pack number 2. 2 of my favorite movies of all time. I'll be honest with you. I bet you I've seen both of them no less than 50 times. It just is what it is, right? I have Blink of an Eye number 3. We'll talk about these movies in just a second. Ford versus Ferrari. I have that number 4, as do you.
Wow.
I didn't get to watch Senna. I don't know if I missed something or what. I started watching it. It was like in a foreign language or something like it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm like, what the hell is this? Right? So I'm like, I'm gonna have to watch that movie. But the one I was watching, like half of it was in a foreign language. I'm like, I think I found the wrong version of Senna. Right? Stroker Ace. I have that in at number 5. I'm a Burt Reynolds fan. I thought that movie was great. A little cheesy, right? But whatever. I thought it was kind of fun. Like you, I have Rush at number 6. And then I have The Last American Hero at number 7.
Wow, our list is almost the same.
It is. And what's crazy is I have 3, The Dale Earnhardt Story, number 8, right? And I have, against my better judgment, I have Talladega Nights at number 9. And the reason I have that, it's a Will Ferrell movie. It's cheesy. It's fun. I just liked it. I don't know. It was cheesy. I get it. But there's a lot of sound bites, right, that come out of that movie. I mean, I thought it was good. And kind of a homer on this one, Bert, but I got Fuel the Thunder from 2010 at number 10.
What one?
Oh, yeah. Fuel the Thunder, baby.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
That was Barry Braun from XR, right? Did a documentary on the Como Mod series, 10 drivers that aired on Fox, put together a little clip. I was episode number 8, so I'm kind of partial to that, right? A little bit cheesy, but it was a hell of a lot of fun. Kind of something that a lot of people have done that kind of thing, especially to that point. And that's actually, if you have a XR Plus subscription, he has it on there. That whole season is on there, so it's kind of neat. So let's talk about these a little bit, right? So Days of Thunder. I mean, probably the best all-time NASCAR racing movie. We both have it at number 1. I mean, did you watch the documentary on the making of that movie?
Yes, I saw that in February.
You could almost put that. You could almost put that in the top 10. You know, the making of Days of Thunder. It really changed the landscape of motorsports. Kind of in a time where NASCAR was at its, I mean, it was popular, heavily popular. And that movie, I thought it was fantastic. What did you like best about Days of Thunder?
Well, I mean, it's the racing is unrealistic compared to what the racing is really like, but it's something that you can just watch over and over. And the opening scene where, well, I don't know if it's the opening scene of the movie, but where they're building the race car, and he's talking to the chassis as he's building as he's going to start building the race car. And it's said that the crew chief was based on Harry Hyde, and that Cole Trickle was kind of loosely based on Tim Richmond. So it kind of dives into some history in NASCAR, even though it's it's a fictional story.
Right. I thought it was fantastic. I mean, every year since that movie's came out, right before racing season kind of opens up here, every year I watch it. Before, I mean, I'll probably watch it multiple times throughout the year, but every year it's kind of like a tradition. I watch it right before racing season.
And well, then there's a lot of quotes from that movie. Change my tires, and we're eating ice cream right now, and stuff like that. And
there is. It's an absolute classic, and my guess is if you're a race fan, you've seen that movie. I mean, let's just be honest. If you haven't, do yourself a favor and watch it. It's fantastic. That's along with number 2. Six Pack. I had a really hard time not putting that number 1, right? Just because it's dirt, but it's a little bit cheesy. It's a little bit kind of a drama in there or whatever. Now, if you're a dirt fan and you have not seen the movie Six Pack, jump on YouTube, type in Six Pack. You can watch the movie for free. Kenny Rogers, unbelievable. It's my favorite era, my personal favorite era of dirt cars. How about you?
Oh, yeah, that is my favorite era of dirt cars. I mean, I wish I could go back in time, and I was just a kid during that era. So, I remember bits and pieces from that, but I wish I could remember it more than what I actually do.
Well, there you go. If you haven't seen that in a while, it's on YouTube, right? All you got to do is you go to YouTube. It's free on there too, so you can find it.
Okay.
Yeah, you go to YouTube, you can click on Six Pack, and there's a version that's on there for free. Race fans, honestly, if you haven't seen that, absolute classic. Again, it's a little cheesy. Bert, it honestly reminds me of some hooligans that I hung around with. I'm not going to mention their names because they know exactly who they are, right? But I remember there was a time, right, where these hooligans kind of pitted for me and helped me out. And next thing you know, they'd have a steering wheel of somebody's, right? And I remember one night they might have taken somebody's spark plug wires after the race. I'm like, they're just like the kids on Six Pack. It's unbelievable, right? And they were brothers, and they know who I'm talking about because they watch the show, and Jeff knows who I'm talking about as well too. Now, you mentioned Senna, and sounds like that was kind of kind of on the life of Ayrton Senna.
Yeah.
I have not yet seen that yet because I saw the version that was not in English. So what stuff would you like about Senna?
Yeah, I mean, it's about Ayrton Senna and his racing career, the rivalry that he had with some of the other drivers, how he was, I mean, basically he was a rock star in his home country. I mean, he was like, I don't want to say a god, but I mean, he was up there in his home country. And, I didn't know, I mean, I knew who Ayrton Senna was, but I didn't know a lot about him till I watched this. And I mean, I can remember when I watched it, it was like, I couldn't stop watching it because it was so interesting. And, they interview some of the other drivers, and this one quote just sticks in my head ever since I watched it. Was one of the drivers said, he thinks he can't kill himself, and that is very dangerous. Well, and, for those of you who don't know, Ayrton Senna was killed in a racing accident back in 1994. He was leading the race when he crashed, and died in the accident. And, knowing that and then hearing that quote, that just sticks in my mind.
Right. I'm telling you, somebody mentioned it, one of our fans of the show that sent us questions back in the day, Formula One and all that. I mean, they were losing a lot of drivers. I mean, it was very, very common to have a couple every year die on the racetrack. It's just crazy.
Well, I was actually looking this up before the show, and the day before Senna died, another driver got killed at that same track during a practice run. So,
wow. Well, and that I'll just jump ahead, right? I don't really need to go in any order, but we'll jump ahead to Rush, because Rush is very much on the same path. It's not on Ayrton Senna, but it's on Formula One, and just they talk about the drivers, and that's based on a true story as well. Right?
Yeah, it's actually the rivalry between James Hunt and Niki Lauda.
Yeah, Niki Lauda. Yep.
And it's based on their rivalry, and that was another movie. I didn't know any, because I don't follow F1, right. And but that was another one I'm watching, and it's like I couldn't stop watching it because I wanted to know, more as to what happened between these two guys.
Yeah, that was an excellent movie. I was in the same boat. I haven't really watched a lot of F1, but looking at some of these tracks that these guys race on, I'm like, they're absolutely nuts, right? I mean, it's one thing, like you get dirt cars, they're like, the track's rough, somebody's going to get hurt. These guys are going over 200 miles an hour and they can't see what's around the corner. What are you talking about? It's not even on the same plane.
Well, especially since they race in the rain. So, right. Yeah.
Yeah, that you want to talk about high risk. I mean, excellent movie, very good storyline in that one. And Ford versus Ferrari, another just an unbelievable movie. It's a recent one, just in the last couple of years. Was it Matt Damon was the main actor, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Matt Damon was the main actor, and then the driver was Christian Bale.
Yeah, Christian Bale, and Matt Damon, of course, plays Carroll Shelby. And of course, if you're familiar with cars, you got the Shelby Mustang. But excellent movie, Ford versus Ferrari. Another one based on a true story. Very interesting to see when Shelby was taking and partnering up with Ford to build the world's fastest race car to knock off Ferrari. The way that Ford corporate treated Shelby and his team was like, you kind of wanted to like punch somebody in the face, right? When watching that movie, you're like, this guy's an asshole. Like, what are you talking about? But it was good. I really liked that movie.
Well, and when I was watching it, I was actually reluctant to watch it because it's like Ford versus Ferrari. What's this going to be about? But then I sat down and watched it, and I couldn't stop watching it. And I've actually watched it a few times since then because it's just, that good. And I knew it was based on a true story, but how they embellish some things and stuff. So actually, after I finished watching it the first time, I went online and Googled how accurate is the story, and it was pretty accurate to what actually happened.
Yeah, and the same thing. I watched it twice as well, right? And I saw it when it came out, I felt the exact same way. I'm like, Ford versus Ferrari, I don't know. I mean, whatever. If I get a chance, I'll watch it. I'm a dirt guy. It has nothing to do with dirt. I don't care. I highly recommend it. That easily could be in the top 5 as well. You have it number 4. We both have it number 4. So we do have it in the top 5. Okay. The next one here, if you're a Dale Earnhardt fan, there's 2 movies, right, that are really good Dale Earnhardt movies. And the one that I watched, and you probably did first years ago, was 3, the Dale Earnhardt story. And I thought that was pretty good.
Are you talking about the ESPN movie?
Well, there's one, the Dale Earnhardt story, but it's 3, right?
Okay, because the one I'm talking about is this.
Okay, that one's good too. There's all kinds of them. So Dale's one, I had 3. Both of them are good movies. So I mean, there's several things out there, but would you agree that Blink of an Eye is just a step ahead of both of those 2?
Yes.
Blink of an Eye. I can't believe I didn't see this.
I I actually didn't see it until February because they had it on with some of the Daytona 500 coverage. So I recorded it. I thought, well, that sounds kind of interesting. And then I started watching it, and it's like, holy crap. And yes, I know you sent me the text, and I'll admit it too. I mean, there were portions of that where there were some tears flowing.
Yeah, real tears. And I get it. I'm not putting on my man card for just a minute. But if you're a race fan and you're a Dale Earnhardt fan and you don't cry from that movie, I don't know what to tell you, because that movie was heart-wrenching. I want to be honest with you. When he won the Daytona 500 and he was going down pit road and all the people were congratulating him, I literally cried then, right? I cried then, like when it actually happened. Heck, I probably cried when he was leading and hit the seagull, right? So, like, literally, I don't know, I'm kind of soft or whatever, but that's just kind of the passion I had for Earnhardt. In that movie, if you're a Dale Earnhardt fan, if you're a NASCAR fan, if you're a race fan, easily a top 5 movie, blink of an eye, unbelievable. It's a must watch. Got to do it. The next one here, getting back into some history of NASCAR, right? Junior Johnson. And didn't Junior Johnson have something with Days of Thunder too? Was that his shop or something?
I don't know.
So I think Junior Johnson had. You have to look back on the history of Junior Johnson and Days of Thunder.
The barn. You're talking about the barn.
Was his, yeah. I think
there is some significance with the barn. I can't remember what it is. I can't remember
what it is either. But there's a movie that's been out for a very long time. Had no idea until I was looking up racing movies. The Last American Hero. That's what it's called, right? The Last American Hero.
Yes.
The Junior Johnson story. What a good movie. I was entertained, and I thought it was good. What's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I thought it was very good too. I mean, I knew the movie was out there, but I had never watched it until this past weekend. Because if we're going to put a list, well, on Facebook, people were saying The Last American Hero. So, I was like, well, I need to watch it before we talk about racing movies. But yeah, it was a very, very good movie. And, I had always known that Junior Johnson got his start with cars as a moonshine, running moonshine, and so it kind of explained that. And it's fun watching the old racing footage too in those movies.
It was. My dad hasn't seen it yet, but I can assure you that my dad's going to be watching that one. And another one that was entertaining, speaking of moonshining, Greased Lightning. And I had no idea that movie even existed. Go ahead and talk a little bit about that. You recommended that to me, and I thought it was entertaining. I thought it was a good, actual, overall good movie, and I'm glad I watched that one for sure.
Yeah, it's one of the. I remember watching it as a kid, and it's the story of Wendell Scott, the first black person to win a NASCAR race. And so it kind of, went over how he got started, and the old racing footage in that movie is really cool.
It is. And Richard Pryor, right, plays Wendell Scott. And this movie's so old. Richard Pryor was young. I mean, this is an old movie. He started out as a moonshiner as well, and kind of a little bit of a rebel. His parents didn't want him to race, and I'm here to tell you, between that movie and The Last American Hero, my dad's going to watch those, and he's going to be like, holy crap, that brings back some memories for sure. And let's face it, I mean, a black guy in the South and that day of age trying to race, you can only imagine how he got treated down there. And of course, Wendell Scott went on to be very successful in racing.
Right.
Another one here, Bert, that I have on the list, you do not, is Stroker Ace. Stroker Ace, he was born to race, right? Burt Reynolds. I absolutely love me some Burt Reynolds, right? And let's face it, is the movie cheesy? There ain't even a question about it, right? I mean, you think back to the Bristol Dirt Nationals, and they had I don't remember the guy's name, but
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Peyton Taylor was there with a stock car, and he kind of had the Chicken Shack special, and he was dressed. That was a throwback, of course, to Stroker Race. Good movie. It's entertaining. It's fun to watch. That's a movie there that if you have kids that like racing, you can easily watch that with the whole family. That's a classic.
It is a very entertaining movie, and I I did have it on my top 10 originally. I had it number 10, but I had forgotten about Rush, so I had to get Rush on the list. But I can remember when I was a kid, I mean, Stroker Ace was on network TV every year, and I would watch it every year when it was on network TV.
Yeah, it's a must. No, another one you have on here, The Bird, admittedly, I have not watched this one yet. It's actually the next one on my list. Cars. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, how the hell could you not have seen Cars? I've literally never seen the movie. Isn't that unbelievable? I mean, you see the Lightning McQueen. I know you have Robin Snyder, who owns Winning Edge Graphics in Alexandria. She's got a little Lightning McQueen car she brings to some of the racetracks. You see Lightning McQueen themed race cars. That's all off of Cars, isn't it? Talk a little bit about
Yes.
Cars.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't watch Cars when it originally came out. I think I may have been babysitting some kids, and that's how I got to watch it. But then I started watching it, and it's like, oh, this is pretty good. And then it gets into some of the history of NASCAR. They have the Hudson Hornet in the movie, and I love vintage stuff, and I mean, I have VHS tapes of the history of NASCAR. I love watching the footage of them racing on the beach and stuff like that. So
right.
I'm familiar with the Hudson Hornet, and then the Hudson Hornet is teaching McQueen how to go into the corners, because you have to turn right to go left, and he doesn't understand that. So just that sort of thing is what I enjoyed about that movie.
And that's something I'm going to have to watch. That's on the list for sure. I believe there's like 2 or 3 of them now, right? Isn't there like a Cars 1, Cars 2? I think.
Yeah, I've only seen. Well, I think I've seen the second one too. I've seen the first 2,
okay.
But the first one is, to me, anyways, definitely
and if you got kids,
the best one.
If you got kids, you got to watch. If you're a race fan, right. You got kids, you got to watch it. Talladega Nights. You don't have it on your list?
I don't have it on my. I'm not a big Will Ferrell fan, and to me, that movie just touches all the stereotypes of racers are rednecks, and
well, let's just be honest. I mean, part of that probably is true.
Well, there is that
to a whole nother level, right? And part of that's almost it's borderline offensive to racing, but it's kind of funny. There's some stuff in there that's pretty good. It's entered. If you're a Will Ferrell fan, and let's be honest, Will Ferrell's that guy that there's people that are like, I love me some Will Ferrell, and he's great. And there's people who are like, I can't stand him. He drives me insane. And he's just that guy. If you're a Will Ferrell fan, you got to watch it. If you can't stand watching Will Ferrell movies, probably not gonna be your movie, right? But it is what it is. Talladega Nights, I have them up in the top 10. Couple honorable mentions here. I have Lady Driver. The storyline ain't horrible, right? I mean, it's not horrible. I've seen a lot of gals posting, I love Lady Driver. I loved it, right? And I get it. It's kind of we're in that age now where, you're getting a little bit of a push for women in motorsports and all that. Let's be honest, right? It's also a story of a spoiled ass 16-year-old kid that raced 7 times and mom and dad bought her a stacker trailer and a late model, right? That might not be too far-fetched, right? That might be fairly accurate, unfortunately, for some kids out there. More power to them. But, what I liked about it is dirt racing, right? I mean, Bobby Pierce's car in the movie, that's kind of cool. They had some actual racing footage in the movie. I thought that was kind of cool. So,
yeah, I mean,
on a scale of 1 to 10, Bert, where would you put Lady Driver?
Probably like now for entertainment value. Is that what we're
overall?
projecting?
Just overall.
I would probably say like a 6.
All right, he's being nice because, ladies, I was gonna say if he put it underneath a 5, it's BERTLEHMAN.
I mean,
give him all the hate mail.
It was an entertaining movie, but as I'm watching it, it's like this girl has never raced before, and by the end of the movie, she's racing on the Lucas. I mean, it wasn't called the Lucas Oil, but she's racing a dirt late model.
Lucas Oil Speedway, biggest race of the year, right?
and
wins the race. Like, come on.
And well, and it was unrealistic. Well, I mean, Days of Thunder was unrealistic in some ways too, but they're shifting gears in going down the straightaway with the dirt late model. And so
see, that's what I was missing. I never understood it. If I would have been shifting in that late model, I probably would have won more races. I don't know what I was thinking. No, you're right. I mean, it's kind of got that like drama, like a chick flick type movie, right? But part of it kind of like almost pissed me off. It's like, you serious? You got this? I've never raced before. I just got my driver's license, and I'm mad because I'm not winning. And 4 races later, she's in victory. Like, what are you talking about, right? But, I mean, gals probably like that one. A couple more here. The Love Bug, right? Herbie the Love Bug, old movie. There's like 3 or 4 different Herbie the Love Bug. The Volkswagen Bug with the 53 on the side, cheesy as hell. But like literally as a little kid, that was one of the only like racing type movies out there, right? So I remember when I was a little kid, and movies have gotten way better since back in the 70s or whatever that movie came out. I bet I watched that all kinds of times as a kid. So
I remember watching that movie with my dad. So
yeah, so I'll give them an honorable mention. Have you seen the Paul Newman story?
No, I have not.
That's another one I have on the list to watch. He 47 years old before he started racing, was involved in the racing industry for over 30 years, and mostly like road course type stuff or whatever, but very accomplished. And me as a hockey fan, and Puka will appreciate this, Paul Newman, of course, was in Slapshot, right? Probably one of the best all-time hockey movies of all time. So
never saw it.
Yeah. So that's homework for Bert. Slapshot.
I have it in my DVR. I saw it was on the movie channel. So
yeah, you gotta watch Slapshot. It's classic. They brought their fucking cars with them. Stupid machine took my quarter. I got no stinking root beer. Good stuff. You gotta watch, right? You gotta watch it. But Paul Newman, and then if you had to say the worst racing movie that you've seen, go ahead. What do you got?
Well, for me, it's Talladega Nights.
Okay. Trading Paint is awful.
I don't know if that's the worst.
Oh my goodness! I that movie was I thought it was terrible. And I like John Travolta's a good actor. Shania Twain is just freaking hot. It just is what it is, right?
I didn't realize that was her at first.
Yeah.
And then
so I'm excited to watch it. I'm like, John Travolta, this guy, I mean, he's all kinds of it. That's what, yeah, John Travolta and Shania. I'm like, it's got to be good. And they're at the Talladega short track racing. You want to talk about a cheesy movie. That movie, horrible. I thought that movie was absolutely terrible. Like, I can't get that hour and a half of my life back. It's dirt racing, so you got to watch it. Maybe you like it better than I did. But I'm going to go ahead and say that's my least favorite. So, Bert, that was fun. I mean, any closing thoughts on the movies?
Well, there's one other one that I watched over the weekend. I mean, it's racing related, but the racing is in the early part of the movie, and then the second half of the movie is I'll say redemption and inspiration, but there's really no racing involved in it. But a Champion. I mean, I don't want to give stuff away if people want to watch it, but it's called Champion. And I mean, just a quick synopsis: he's a race car driver, single dad, loses his kid, involved in a racing accident, and then the rest of the movie is trying to redeem himself.
Okay, I haven't seen that one. You'll have to text me that. Champion is the name of
it. Yeah,
okay?
let me.
Okay, so it looks like dirt racing at that.
It's a dirt late model, yes.
Okay. I have not seen that, which is surprising to me. So that's one that I guess I'll have to check out. I'm sure I can find it online. So let's get into the next segment, Bert. That was a lot of fun, by the way. So thank you to the fan that said, "Hey, check out your top 10 racing shows." It was an entertaining week watching that. There's a lot of good racing movies out there. I'm glad I got to watch. Still have a couple more to do. A couple I didn't see that I finally saw. Blink of an eye. That was worth it all by itself. That movie was unbelievable. But let's get into some who's hot and who's not, brought to you by Blue Line Brews. So first of all, if you're going to watch some of these movies, or jump online, bluelinebrews.com, order yourself some Java, right? A portion of those proceeds are going to go to families of injured officers, families of fallen officers. But get yourself some coffee, pour a cup of coffee, watch the race. You'll be glad you did. But Bert, who do you have? Who's hot?
He didn't get any wins last week, but he was on the podium, and that would be Tim McCready.
He did what, second and a third he got, right? He's pretty solid, and kind of whining a little bit last week though, Bert.
Was he?
Yeah, he's whining about the droop rule. Oh, look, it's not as good at racing. It's like, dude, everybody else has it. Relax, okay? Because remember, World of Outlaws went to it. Lucas went to it now. So he said he finally made some adjustments, and he was pretty racy, but I think he was maybe expecting to park at Victory Lane kind of up on his home turf. But T-Mac's a good one. You know who I have is Turbo. Turbo, his last 4 races, a pair of thirds, a first, and a fifth, and a third in the Lucas Oil standings, kind of dominated really up at Hagerstown. I did not expect it because I just didn't see that being his kind of track, so to speak, to win on. And I can see him being up on them elbow up tracks coming up here shortly, maybe over at like Macon and stuff in a couple weeks with the Lucas Oil. But Turbo surprisingly elevating his game just a little bit. Who do you have on who's not?
Well, I mentioned him earlier, and that would be Hudson O'Neal. I mean, like I said, the last race, he was lapped by lap 15. And, I mean, he's just not running good at all this year. And I don't know what happened to him.
No, here's how bad he's running, Bert, because that's my not also, okay? Because, again, you're copying my homework. I'm going first on the next 24 starts, 0 wins. How many podiums do you think Hudson O'Neal has this year?
1.
2. He got third at Golden Isles, and then he got second one night at East Bay. I mean, you're right. He's been terrible. I mean, it's completely and he's like embarrassingly bad. He had a post on Facebook today. They went testing. Of course, Roger Sellers owns his track, also owns Smoky Mountain Speedway, and what is it, Tennessee, I think it is. So they went testing with both cars. They're like, we got to fix this because this is embarrassingly bad. And he's somebody that kind of closing out the year last year. We're like, man, he's kind of resurged with this new ride, new car. He looked pretty good at times in Florida, and he's on the struggle bus bad, and maybe can turn it around. So let's jump into the sure bets of the week, and of course, number 1 lock of the week, of course, is J. Schmidt Real Estate in Watertown, South Dakota. Big racing family out there at the Casino Speedway for many years. Jay's got 20 years in business, and if you need land transactions, commercial, residential, you name it, the lock of the week by a long shot, get a hold of Jay Schmidt Real Estate in Watertown, South Dakota. And Bert, I'm going first, so you don't take mine. And I just want to mention, right, I'm just going to play this little clip here. Hold on just a minute. Brandon Shepard's going to lead this weekend with the orange spoiler. He'll be leading the Lucas Oil points. How about that, Bert? I got it right last week. I said that B-Shep was going to leave the weekend with the orange spoiler, the Lucas Oil point lead. I'm like a prophet. He did. As bad as he sucked night 1 in Hagerstown, putting on the backup beeper, Moran was worse, right? So Brandon Shepard, your Lucas Oil point leader. But my sure bet of the week here, Bert, Chris Smokey Madden is going to find Victory Lane this weekend. And I believe it's going to be either at that, Wythe or With Speedway or Tazewell. would be my guess for a Madden. He's been hot. He's been on fire. But Madden is going to be at the 3 races that we're going to be picking on this weekend. I think he's going to win one of the final 2 and stay hot in that 44. Bert, who do you got?
Well, I have to disagree with you because Superman's going to get back into victory lane at Tazewell and win that race.
Well, we could both be right, because if he wins at Tazewell and Madden wins the night before, we could both technically be right. But yeah, I mean, he's kind of been there, but not there. JD's been kind of on the outside looking in. Madden's been red hot. Let's see if he can stay hot. Should be some good races. So let's jump into the last lap, brought to you by Zeuli's Race Engines and Mother Nature doing him some favors, because they build such a good product that there's a lot of people calling, getting motors from Frank, and sounds like he's getting them out there. But thankfully, Mother Nature's working so he can get them out there on time. And let's just face it, if you can't beat them, join them. Jump on a Zeuli Race Engines Facebook page. You'll see all the success they had over the past couple of years, because he posts and it's really cool, because it's one thing you have engine builders, right, that they build engines and everybody's got pride, but they really do good with the marketing and promoting their guys. As a racer, I appreciate that every time one of their drivers wins, they're posting it on Facebook. It's good marketing for them, but it also gives recognition to their drivers. So join Team Zeuli's if you want to have a great 2022 season. So first of all, a little bit of sad news over in eastern Wisconsin. Bert, go ahead. What do you got?
Yeah, Roger the Bear Regath passed away yesterday. He was one of the best racers in the late 60s and then throughout the 70s. Raced late models. He won multiple track championships at Shawano Speedway. Whenever you talk to racers, they always say, he was the most aggressive driver out there. Let's put it that way. I mean, he wasn't afraid to move somebody out of the way, and he was a great racer. He retired, and then he came back and raced Grand National cars, which are kind of similar to IMCA stock cars. Won multiple features at Shawano Speedway racing those. So, I mean, even when he got older, he was still winning when he came back. So, it's sad to see racing legends die. I know Joe Vertigan. If you're interested in learning more about Roger Regath, joevertigan.com. He has some audio interviews that he did with him he's posted them on his website, and he has a story about his friendship with Roger Regath. And Joe Vertigan also wrote a book several years ago about J.J. Smith and Roger Regath. So, there's some material out there if you want to learn more about him.
Yeah, Joe's a good historian. He's got a lot of great stuff. And I saw something one day. He said every interview that he ever did, audio interview, he has it on there. So that's a pretty cool deal. Like there must be a lot of history. I've read some of his stuff, and it's all great stuff. So joevertigan.com to check out some of that great history. I want to give a shout out on a positive note. Devin Fouquet, 4th place finish in the IMCA mods. Wissota guy, kind of had a good battle for the Rookie of the Year honors, came up short. Brandon Kopp won that. But Bert, he already has 16 chosen. We're not even into the Wissota season. And it's kind of fun to see these kids that are hungry, right? That have, and don't get me wrong, he's got the ability, he's got, some help financially to be able to do that. But 4th place down at Boone, that's nothing to sneeze at with that competition down there. He's got a win already this year, some podium finishes down in Arizona. Do you think that when people start racing all winter long, do you think that can maybe give them a little bit of a leg up coming into their regular season?
Yes. It can give them a leg up because they've already loosened the rust off. My concern would be, are they going to get burned out though as the season goes along? Will they get burned out quicker because they have been racing pretty much all year?
Well, they're not all our age. He's half of our age. So at that age, when I ran 98 shows one year, and I would have ran more if there was more to race. I don't think he's in a position yet to have that burnout. Another guy I want to give a shout out is Dylan Terrell and Terrell Racing over in White, South Dakota. And I was talking about some of the stuff I'm doing with the Hornets, and we'll get into more of that later. But remember a couple of years ago, maybe it was, no, 2 years ago, I talked about Stinger Speedway over in Winger, South Dakota. They had the little go-kart track, and they, basically everybody come in and you could pay in recreational go-kart track, but it was an oval. They had heats and features, super cool. Ton of racers went down to there. Well, now they've kind of stepped up their game even more. They started a business called TB Chassis, and he's like, look, I just want to help racing, right? Racing is incredibly expensive. You're spending way too much on most of these cars. And his goal and their goal at TB Chassis is to do everything they can to help people get an affordable car out there in the Hornet class, help grow the sport. So give them a like, give them a look over on Facebook. And if you're interested in getting you or your kid into racing, that might be a good alternative to get into an affordable car to get yourself started. So Bert, NASCAR at Bristol this week on dirt. We've been talking about that. They had it last year. Give me your thoughts to start with.
It'll be interesting to see how they do it. Hopefully the weather is good. They had some issues last year with rain at the track, so I don't. The dirt was kind of soft last year. I did notice that the race is going to be on like late in the afternoon, early evening on Sunday. So I'm glad that they put it in that time slot because to be able to showcase it more, especially on Easter Sunday, because Sunday is Easter. So, and in the past, NASCAR never raced on Easter, but now they do. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I saw something that they were practicing with the windshields out. So I don't know if they're going to be racing with the windshields out or not.
Knock on wood.
To me, I don't think you can do dirt racing if you have a windshield because, that's what they do with the truck races. That's what they always did at Eldora, and that's why I usually didn't watch the races because they get the track packed so hard that basically you're racing on asphalt anyway.
Right. I couldn't agree more. Everybody's got their opinion if they like tacky or dry, whatever, right? But if they're going to leave it like concrete, don't even put dirt on it. You're just spending all that money for nothing at that point. And last year, really, they probably could have got the race in if they would have not had windshields, right? They could have found a way to get it in. They kept, what was it, lap 2, and nobody could see?
That's right. I forgot about that.
So, just get rid of the windshields and have a real race. A lot of these drivers now are racing dirt. William Byron, he's going to race, we'll talk about that, Bulls Gap. He's going to race on dirt. So I'm with you. I'm really hoping they go without the windshields, and it just makes sense that they would do that. It's not a very difficult thing for them to do, so they should be able to figure it out. Now, speaking of NASCAR, sounds like they're getting a little feisty, right? Haley Deegan having a little conversation at the end of her race. And then, of course, you had Ty Gibbs throwing some haymakers there. I know one of the guy he was throwing haymakers at, your guy. He's a Wisconsin guy. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, Sam Mayer. He's from Wisconsin, and Gibbs is he's starting to get a reputation because it was only the week before that he bumped his teammate out of the way to take a victory, and his teammate wasn't real happy about that. So, and then the next week, then the next week he gets into a fisticuffs, and he's definitely developing a reputation. And drivers always say that they race drivers the way they're raced by that driver. So we'll see what happens to him in the future.
Well,
and probably a lesson though too is don't take your helmet off if there's going to be a confrontation.
I don't know how I feel. I'm going to talk about that here. So he got fined, incidentally, 15,000. Okay, but not for the fight. It was for bumping into a car in pit road after the race, right? So he got for bumping into a car. He got a $15,000 fine. They also got a $5,000 fine for some lug nut deal, but they got zero fine for him throwing punches. There you go. The answers had. They want to see more WWE, UFC type stuff in racing. Maybe that needs to happen a little bit more. Now, taking the helmet off. I mean, I saw Kenny Wallace saying, "Oh, nobody took their helmet off. Nobody ever takes their helmet off." I'm like, that's just stupid, right? I mean, like, that's not even a fight. And if you watch it, I watched it a couple times, right? So that guy went up, Sam Mayer went up and kind of got in his face, kind of give him a little shove, and then he threw a couple of haymakers at him. And then Mayer he didn't like run away. He went straight back at him. And he never had a chance to like get back in the fight, because as soon as he went after him, everybody grabbed a hold of him and broke it up. I call bullshit on that, Bert. If that dude's if he's gonna get punched in the face a couple of times, get the hell out of the way. Let him go back after the guy. Why are they breaking it up after he got hit? Right? I don't think it's over yet. I think there's more to come. No, they did have to go to the trailer afterwards, but I think they should sell tickets. It should be Ty Gibbs, Sam Mayer, front straightaway Bristol, in between session 1 and session 2, or whatever they call them, segment 1 and segment 2. Let them do a little boxing, and whoever wins gets to start ahead of the next guy in the next segment, or something like that. I mean, there's unfinished business. If somebody's going to throw punches and that person wants to go back in it for more and get in it, let them go. I think them breaking this deal up was a mistake. They should have let them have that. That's my thoughts. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, they have to break it up, but yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, Gibbs got in some pretty good punches, and Mayer lunged, and then they started breaking it up. So, yep. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think this is over. I mean, drivers, they remember that, and they, like I said, they always say that they race other drivers the way that driver races them. So, and the fact that Gibbs has been in controversy 2 weeks in a row.
Good Christian group there. Joe Gibbs, very Christian.
Yeah, I know. that's why
you got Ty Gibbs. I mean,
that's why it was kind of surprising for me to see him throw punches. But
yeah, I like that, right? Because it got my attention. If it wouldn't have been for that, I probably wouldn't even have tuned in at all, right? So that kind of stuff, regardless if we like it or don't like it, it brings people to the sport. So I'm glad they didn't fine him. I'm surprised. Are you surprised that he didn't get a fine for that?
Yeah, I am surprised. I mean, they're definitely set a precedent. I mean, so if anybody throws punches in the future, they really can't do anything to that driver. But as far as drawing attention, yeah, I mean, people now are going to tune in for at least the next few races just to see if anything happens more.
Well, now we got Bristol on dirt. If there's going to be some controversy, it's Bristol on dirt. So tune in. We might have to check out some Sunday night action over at surprised they're racing on Easter, but it is what it is. But I'll be tuning into that one. I'll be watching that one for sure. Now, speaking of that, Bert, let's jump into our standings for the week. We had a little bit of movement. Things are getting tight. Technically, Puka is in the lead. He's tied with Jeff, but he missed tonight, right? So I don't know. Sorry, Jeff, but I think if I had to pick between you and Puka right now, our flat-billed friend got to be in first, which unbelievable. You got a flat-billed hockey dude, which that don't even go together. A flat-billed racing, he's leading. I don't know. Bert, you're only 1 point back. I gained some points this weekend too, but not enough. I'm at 29, so I'm 3 points out of first. Mike is now in double digits. Brad is still waiting to get on the board. I have a feeling it'll happen this week. Had some pretty good picks. Now, speaking of this week, the races we're going to pick is Thursday night, open late model race, 20,000 to win over at the Volunteer Speedway, Bulls Gap, Tennessee. This is the show, of course, Bert, that Kyle Larson is promoting. Interesting enough, he wants to make it kind of like the prelude to the dream. That's his whole William Byron. I haven't heard any other NASCAR guys, of course, Kyle Larson, right? I haven't heard who else is going to be there. Clint Boyer is going to be on the mic. That's going to be fun. He does a hell of a job. I think he's highly entertaining. What's your thoughts?
And plus, I mean, he knows about dirt racing, so it's not like he's going to,
right.
You know, he won't be uninformed. I mean, he's raced on dirt in the past, and you know, he owned a dirt late model team in the past also. So, you know, at least he'll be knowledgeable, and you know, he'll be able to convey, as you know, what's going on.
Absolutely. So spring nationals, we're going to pick both of them. No Lucas World of Outlaw XR, none of that this week. But Friday at Wythe Speedway or Wythe Raceway, Rural Retreat, I think is where it's at. Saturday at Tazewell for $21,000. So we got a couple there. The World of Outlaw Sprint Cars, they got the Ironman 55, the Prelude on Friday, and then they got the 55 lapper, I believe, on Saturday, both at I-55. So we got 5 races this weekend that we're going to pick. Bert, which one are you most looking forward to?
I would say the one that Kyle Larson is promoting or helping to promote, the one at Bulls Gap. Curious to see if he does anything special, or if it's, you know, just to see how he promotes that race and how it's run.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one as well. Out of all the late model races, I would say that one. Tazewell, I mean, I'm kind of looking forward to that one too. That's pretty aggressive racetrack, but probably more than anything, the Ironman 55 laps of World of Outlaw Sprint Car action. That should be a heck of a good race. Brad Sweet, did you pick him this week?
I picked him, I believe, for the second race. Yeah, I picked him for one of the races.
He's screwed then. He ain't going to win. I picked him too. Now I'm going to have to change my pick because you picked him and you jinx him all the time. So
I actually looked at the results from all of the I-55 races last year, and Sweet was on the podium every single race at that track.
He gets around that place pretty good. That'll be interesting. Good racing action. And, you know, we're going to leave it with this. Again, this is a time of year. Racing ain't happening yet. A lot of you have your cars ready. You know, tip of the cap to all you drivers that are putting your cars in car shows. I've seen several different racers having their cars in car shows. A little suggestion, try to get something involved with the schools. Closer to racing season, if a few of you can get your cars over to the schools, get those kids involved, get them excited about racing, I think that would be good. But all of it helps, whether it's a car show at the school, at your sponsor's place. Tip of the cap to Aaron Blacklance. I know he had his car. They actually tagged us on Facebook. I know that Brandon Kopp had his car over at his sponsor's place here today. That kind of stuff is super cool. It needs to happen a lot more. In Bert, episode 124 in the book. Any closing thoughts before we jump off?
No, just that we're very close to being able to talk about local racing soon.
Yeah, Menominee canceled, and Ogilvie canceled, and Cedar Lake canceled, and everything's canceling here. But we got some racing coming up. Mother Nature, hopefully she gets this out of her system so we can get back to racing. I'm excited for it. It's going to be a great year, regardless of the tire issue. There's a lot of positive stuff happening in the racing industry. We'll be talking about it for sure. I'm Ryan Aho. That is Bert Lehman. Thanks for tuning in to the One to Go Show.